What is going on, everyone? Welcome back into another edition of the 415ers podcast, coming at you as always 3 times a week on the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network. Evan Giddings, Marc Grandy with you. Marc, my man, what's going on?
I'm doing well, Evan. How are you? I'm just getting ready for a Thursday edition of Niners football. We're kind of off our rhythm because normally this is kind of a midweek episode, but no, instead we got to preview another football game, gearing up for Niners Seahawks. Should be a fun Thursday night.
No doubt. Week 15, pardon me. This was a week that a lot of people have penciled, especially after, I would say, kind of around the bye week, around the time that the Niners were sort of wondering whether or not they'd be able to overtake the Seattle Seahawks, who were in first place for a lot of that middle portion of the season. So everyone's been looking forward to this for a long time, and especially with all the things that have happened in San Francisco surrounding, of course, the quarterback, surrounding the 6-game win streak, and surrounding now a chance to win the NFC West. This is absolutely a big game. But the first place we want to start today, we'll get into the matchup and the preview on the back end, is Deebo Samuel and his injury that he sustained. Fortunately, of course, he was carted off the field this weekend, but then we found out it was actually more of a high ankle sprain, MCL, for Deebo Samuel. The timetable was 3 to 6 weeks originally, but Marc, today, speaking today, as we're recording on Tuesday, Kyle Shanahan referenced Deebo Samuel as basically 3-ish weeks, that around 3 weeks, I should say. That is the official report from Kyle Shanahan, so some good news there.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kyle Shanahan. We have that sound. I'm going to play it for you really quick. This is gigantic good news for the San Francisco 49ers. Here's Kyle Shanahan on Deebo Samuel.
I mean, there's 4 weeks left in the season. I think they told me 3-ish is our expectation, so right in that area.
So 3 weeks is the expectation. The Niners have 4 regular season games left. They play, of course, Seattle this Thursday at Seattle, Washington at home, at Las Vegas, and then Arizona. So there's a very realistic chance, Evan, that Deebo Samuel comes back for the regular season finale against Arizona. Maybe even an outside chance that he could play on the road against Vegas on New Year's Day, which would certainly be exciting. But it raises the question, Evan. Certainly, it's gigantic, great news that this isn't considered a season-ending injury, that it seems relatively likely that he will not miss a postseason game. That's the good news. But then the question becomes, with how well this Niner team is playing at this point, do you even need Deebo Samuel in the regular season? Because I think there'd be a lot of Niner fans who would say, all right, just play it safe, not rush him back at all, just get him back for the postseason, and we'll go from there, because the Niners shouldn't have much of an issue winning the NFC West and getting, at worst, the 3 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, that's interesting to dig into. 2 things off that. One, I would say that Deebo Samuel absolutely should, if he can, play before the end of the regular season because, well, you'd like to get him some work before the playoffs start to really test out that ankle/MCL and see that he is indeed 100% healthy, because he is a huge part of your offense. And even if it's not, an entire game's worth of reps, you want to see him before the playoffs. That's one. Number 2, like we talked about in the last episode, you still have a chance at the 2 seed. And if it comes down to that final week where you're playing Arizona and you have a chance to win, you want all your weapons available. So Deebo Samuel, to me, if the 3-week mark is what he's going to be looking at, I would absolutely love to have him back. And in fact, want to make sure that he is back before the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's something that we've also talked about a lot throughout the course of the season, specifically after the Christian McCaffrey deal. We spent a lot of time talking about touches and which star player is getting the right amount of touches. Are fans upset at Deebo Samuel's usage? Is George Kittle not getting enough action? Does he not have the ball in his hands enough? And where I kind of fell on this conversation was, well, considering how many weapons you have on offense, Kyle Shanahan has so many to choose from, you don't really need to feed any one individual. Maybe Christian McCaffrey is the exception because he's far and away the best running back that you have. But still, if he was in an offense without Deebo Samuel, without George Kittle, without Brandon Ayuk, he would certainly be getting more touches than he is right now. He's just being super efficient with those touches. But still, my argument really all season, or at least in the second half of the season after the McCaffrey trade, has been Kyle Shanahan is not going to overuse any one of his individual weapons because he doesn't need to. Maybe there will be a time in the last week of the regular season, second to last week of the regular season. If things go poorly and they need to win to make the playoffs, that seems very, very unlikely at this stage. Maybe we see it in the postseason when then Kyle Shanahan just gets really stubborn and says, all right, Deebo, hopefully you're up for it, but you're getting 15 touches today. Like that's when that would come around. So I would tend to agree if he is 100% cleared by the medical staff, he's good to go. There's no risk more than usual of re-injury to either his MCL, which he strained, or his ankle, which he suffered a sprain on, then sure. But even if he is playing, Evan, just get him, a light amount of work. You don't want to give him double-digit touches his first game back. You want to be safe about it, of course. But I think to answer the main overarching question, I will be surprised if the Niners, quote, need Deebo Samuel in the regular season. The way that they are playing, they can easily beat this Seattle team. Maybe easily is the wrong word. It's not out of the question. They can certainly beat Seattle without Deebo Samuel. Same goes for the Commanders, who are playing better football of late. Same goes for Las Vegas, and same goes now for the Kyler Murray-less Arizona Cardinals. The Niners do not need Deebo Samuel to finish the season winning the rest of their games. It'll certainly help, but they don't need it. So I would just say be cautious as much as you possibly can with Deebo Samuel. Make sure he's 100% or as close to it as possible when the postseason rolls around.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, sure, they don't need him, I guess, to get into the playoffs. But look, this is going to be a tough game on Thursday, right? I don't know about you. To me, Mark, and we'll get into our predictions towards the end, but this is a game that I think the 49ers have a chance to lose. Like, it's not a foregone conclusion that they'll walk into Seattle and beat the Seahawks. Then you get Washington at home next week. And I know that the Commanders are not necessarily a sexy team, but they're a hard-nosed body bag type team that to me could give San Francisco issues because of their physicality, particularly up front. And then you get the Las Vegas Raiders on the road. The Raiders have been one of the more inconsistent teams in the NFL when it comes to trying to predict what they're going to do on a week in and week out basis. The 49ers, I would expect to win that game. But again, I can't put it past Derek Carr to pull 3 late touchdowns out of his behind and Devontae Adams to get loose in the secondary. So who knows? And then I think they'll win Arizona Cardinals. That'd be the only game that I would expect them to win, honestly, with some of their backups at this point, because Kyler Murray being out for the season now, unofficially tearing his ACL on Monday Night Football against the Patriots. That team is done. So to me, I'm looking at 3 games upcoming. Unfortunately, they're going to be the games that you don't have Deebo Samuel, but I think they do need him in those type of games. So to me, like, yes, I'm not super worried about them having or not having him, but he definitely could be used. And I don't know if it's a bold take, but I do have a bolder take for later in the episode about Christian McCaffrey's usage this upcoming week against Seattle. So I think that's, to me, where he factors in the most. I know you just talked about the touch distribution, but to me, Deebo he's a part of the equation. And so his touches are going to go, to me, to Christian McCaffrey and not other players. So, I think Deebo will be missed this week, and I think he will be missed the next 3 weeks that he's out.
He'll certainly be missed. I'm not making that argument. I mean, this is a better 49er team with Deebo Samuel on the field. I think only, a clinically insane person would think otherwise. But I would disagree in saying I do not think the Niners need Deebo Samuel to finish off the season on a high note. Obviously, I mean,
I think they need him if they want to make the 2 seed, if they want to get the 2 seed.
I mean, I guess it depends. I think it's very possible that they do it without. I think it's a near. I know this isn't what you just said. I think it's a near given, regardless of who plays for the 49ers. And this is just kind of a mathematical probability. The Niners will win the NFC West, which means at worst you will be the 3 seed. We talked about it. My hot take from a month ago or so was the Niners are going to be the 2 seed, and it's probably better to be the 2 seed than the 3 seed. However, is it going to make a gigantic difference? I'm not so sure. I mean, it's probably better to to get the 2 seed, of course. But it's not like it's going to be something I think that makes or breaks your postseason chances, especially when you consider the fact that Deebo Samuel should be back relatively, no questions asked, by the first postseason game for the 49ers. So if you're playing maybe a slightly better opponent that week, you feel confident that you're going to have Deebo Samuel back, which would therefore, increase your chances of winning that game. So I do not think that they need Deebo Samuel back to accomplish everything they want to close out the regular season. Now, when the postseason comes around, they absolutely do, which, I think, for my reasoning, my way of seeing things, it's not just the fact that I think they can handle business in the regular season without him, but it's the fact that he becomes so much more important in those big games. Deebo Samuel is a big game, a big moment player. Without him in a postseason game, even if Christian McCaffrey is playing well, even if Brock Purdy isn't looking like a rookie, the Niners' chances plummet drastically. Deebo Samuel is at his best in the biggest moments, which is why I would just say, 49ers, do not give him too much if he returns for the final game of the regular season, because you need him more than any other time in the postseason. Just please make sure Deebo Samuel is ready for that moment.
Yeah, and that's why, unfortunately, I think the next 3 games are like he is going to be missed. I mean, these are big games upcoming for the 49ers. He's a big game player, is Deebo Samuel.